Okay, the damn laptop is humming, which is perfect, but whatever. Wasn't gonna wait for it to stop. Maybe it'll just keep going. Okay, so I was gonna do the usual. I was probably just gonna do like some sort of '90s action movie, which was the original plan. I was looking, at some Van Damme and some other things like that. Well, I won't give away some things because there's some things that I might still do in the future. But anyway, I was looking at stuff from the '90s and mostly sort of action. Instead, we're getting an older movie from the '80s, and it's a drama. But I don't know. Just coming across it, I'd forgotten that it had been on my list. It's available on Crave here in Canada anyway. Not sure where else it might be streaming. And I was looking at stuff on my list, and I was like, oh yeah, I put this on my list. And it's actually been quite a long time since I've seen it start to finish, because most of my experience with watching this movie is catching it on TV when I would usually watch it. But it's been quite a while since that's happened. And I've always really liked the book and the movie. I think this is a really good adaptation of the book. The book is a really great book, really impressive and authentic when you think that it was written by a 16-year-old girl. She was 16 and 17. I think she was 15 when she started writing it, and it got published when she was 18. S.E. Hinton is her name. She wrote about it came out in 1967, and I mean, very good writer, but also very authentic. It sort of has that feel, the teens angst or whatever. So this is also known for a couple things. One, a really star-studded cast in that they weren't stars yet because they were all so young, but just so many. I mean, Diane Lane's in there too, but since it's a movie with mostly male characters, a lot of male actors that would go on to be big. Even though some of the ones that were bigger, like say a Tom Cruise, his role isn't so big as somebody else. Like I don't know, is it C. Thomas Howell? Thomas C. Howell? I don't know. Ralph Macchio's in there. Matt Dillon. Um, all sorts of people. Patrick Swayze. Who else we got? Emilio Estevez. Emilio. That kind of stuff. So I know I'm probably leaving people out. There's just so many. But so yeah, it would be known, especially a number of young actors that would be known as what the Brat Pack in the '80s and go on to be in a bunch of movies together. This is the I think the first one of those movies. So yeah, it just sort of hit me all at once when I was thinking about something to do. And coming across it, then it might be a nice change, and it's not too long of a movie. This is the original theatrical cut, which is just about 90 minutes long. About 15 years ago, they did release on DVDs like some sort of full director's cut or something. What's it called? Like the full novel, which runs for over 2 hours, has some deleted scenes and things in it. I'd very much like to see it, so maybe I'll just have to buy it someday because I've never seen it. But if you've seen it, let me know. And what's different about it, because this is a movie I like a lot, but maybe don't think about too much. I don't know. There's just so many movies, right? So we're gonna get going in a minute here. There's not like a lot of preamble to say about this one. Really, I guess the only other, well, there's plenty of other interesting things, but one of the interesting things too is, of course, I was going to say of the two things that maybe stand out besides the cast is this is director, the very famous, legendary director Francis Ford Coppola, who, of course, many people think directed the best movie of all time in The Godfather, and then followed up with a sequel that was not only worthy, but there's plenty of people who think The Godfather 2 is even better than the original. So, I mean, what percentage of directors can say that? Like, very tiny to be in that ballpark. And of course, he did have other um, successful releases since then. I mean, I think he did The Conversation in the mid '70s, which was I don't know if it was a big success or anything, but it's considered a very good movie. He did that same year. He did Godfather 2, and of course, he did Apocalypse Now in 1979, which is like one of the definitive war movies, and is probably my favorite war movie, or maybe it's in a tie with The Thin Red Line, which you can see on the Movie Discussion Pocket Dimension channel. Jay and I covered that not too long ago, maybe a little over a year ago. Thin Red Line, great World War II movie. Sorry, my phone's going. Gotta ignore phones for this. But anyway, so Francis Ford Coppola, but he was actually coming off maybe his like biggest failure. I mean, it seems this happens to all successful directors. Once they get to a certain point in success, they want to do musicals. So he did One from the Heart the year before this in '82, and it was just a huge box office bomb. I've always been interested in watching it just to see how truly bad it is. I remember at Video Difference over here, the video store I mentioned a bunch of times. It's not around anymore, closed in 2016, but it had so many awesome movies. Like they had a copy of it for sale, but it was expensive as hell because maybe it was rare. I don't know. It was out of print or something. I remember it was like over $40 for a DVD. of it, and even that just sort of interested me. But anyway, so I've never seen it. So he's coming off his first real actual failure, and he was sort of um, I don't want to say go into any sort of decline in the 80s, but I don't know what people really think of Rumblefish. Actually, Peggy Sue Got Married is the one that Jay and I did cover on our channel of his filmography, and we mostly kind of pick it apart for a lot of its flaws. Although I still enjoy the movie Peggy Sue Got Married. It's an interesting sort of movie. It's a magic realism sort of fantasy, sort of romantic movie. I don't know. Like a lot of directors, they want to prove that they can do more things and that they can I don't know, be versatile when it comes to things like style of film and all that. I mean, unless you're Scorsese, in which case you just make the same goddamn crime movie over and over again. But yeah, Coppola. This is an interesting time. Almost sort of, I don't want to call it a comeback. He's on a huge run, so then he had a failure. I don't know how it works. But what's interesting is he hadn't really considered making it, and how it came to be is really interesting. In that, it was actually he'd gotten a letter from an elementary school class in Fresno, California. I think they had read the book for the purposes of school, and the teacher, I guess, convinced them, or I don't know whose idea it was exactly, but anyway, the idea was there should be a movie of this, and they sort of like all signed it like as a petition, like that Hollywood should make a movie of this, and it was actually it wasn't the teacher, it was the librarian, Joe Ellen Misakian, school librarian, Lone Star Elementary School, Fresno, California. Anyway, wrote on behalf of the 7th and 8th grade students. Okay, so it was two different classes. So it was more than one class, 7th and 8th grade students. Anyway, it says, we are also impressed with the book, The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, that a petition has been circulated asking that it be made into a movie. We have chosen you to send it to. So that's kind of interesting, too. Like, they wanted specifically him, not just, to get it made, but be the director. And I guess he took it seriously. I don't know. Maybe he thought the book was good. I don't know. But that is how we got this movie. Because it was not something he had on his own considered, or I don't know if he was familiar with the book or anything like that, but he decided, and what we got out of it was a very good movie. So let's just get into the movie now and get it going here. So the first thing coming up is I forgot about this old Warner Brothers logo. It's like the W is red coming off at you from a black screen. Like, I know I've seen it before, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. So that's what's up here, and then we'll go from there. So hopefully while I was blathering, that gives anybody who's watching time to find it. Like I said, I don't know where else it's streaming in Canada. It's on Crave. It might be through Stars or something like that. So if you have Stars in the US, sometimes it has the same stuff. I don't know. But that's where we're going to watch it here. So it's been a few years since I've seen it, and it's been a long time since I've seen it all the way start to finish. I have read the book. I read the book before I saw the movie. I didn't read for school or anything like that. I just found there was just a banged up copy in my house growing up. I read the book probably when I was about 12 or 13, something like that. I don't know if I was aware of the movie at the time, but I mean, I remember I did see the movie before I went away to university. So it's, I was a teenager when I saw the movie. I was roughly the same age as some of the characters in it when I saw it. So coming of age movies are always interesting from that too, just so like books are. And like, you might read them when you're the same age as the kids, and you read them when you're older, and then older, like, the big one for me was The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which also eventually was made into a movie. I read that just at the same age as the main character. I was like 14 or 15 when I read it. Then I read it again when I was like 25. And then I read it again when I was like 31, 32. Was the last time I read it. And you always sort of have a different perspective on it, I think. Some of these coming of age movies where the characters are kids or juveniles, adolescents, whatever you call it. So, okay. Anyway, enough preamble. Let's do The Outsiders. So this is from 1983, The Outsiders. 3, 2, 1, hit play there. And I'm sure I'll have to deal with the volume as usual. Yeah, the old Warner. The other thing that's kind of odd is it has a main theme taken from the quote Stay Gold, called Stay Gold, and it's by who is it? Because here's Soda Pop, right? No, that's Pony Boy. Pony Boy. I'm remembering now. They all have weird, or his family has weird names. His father named him Pony Boy and Soda Pop. And, but there's Pony Boy. And he's supposed to be working on a school thing here. But anyway, the whole Stay Gold thing, which is from a real poem, that's into the sort of a musical theme composed and performed by Stevie Wonder, which I don't know, I guess a sign of the times. 1983, it's Stevie Wonder, who, of course, the year after this, his biggest song, and I actually got derailed. I remember talking to Jay about this, and I never got around to my actual point, which was it's kind of weird, and I don't know if it's ironic, but I think most people forget that, like, that big song, I Just Called to Say I Love You, was written specifically for the soundtrack of the movie The Lady or Woman in Red or whatever, the Gene Wilder comedy about, I don't know, some middle-aged sourly man basically putting himself through humiliation so he can sleep with who is it, Kelly LeBrock? Anyway, because the scene, that was what the movie was written for. I mean, that was the song. I mean, that was the movie the song was written for, and it appears in the movie, and it appears at a scene where I can't remember where he is, but he's out, and he's calling up his wife, so it is like, I just called to say I love you, except he's not saying that. He's calling his wife to lie to her, to explain, why he's out or whatever, while he's chasing, trying to pursue this woman. So it goes kind of oh yeah, Tom Waits is in this. Awesome. That's pretty cool. Leif Garrett, there's a guy that never got past the child star thing, really. Leif Garrett. A lot of like I said, a lot of these guys would grow up and have long careers to this day, but Leif Garrett, not so much. But yeah, Tom Waits. Some things that I forgot. But anyway, we got the song playing now. It's fine, I guess. I do like Stevie Wonder, but I don't really know. I guess it's fine. It's not really what I think about when I think about the movie. But that's just because it's such a good story and it's so many good performances by young actors. So where is this, like, shot? Is this shot in, yeah, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeah, okay. Which is, I think, where it's set. Or it's supposed to be set around there anyway. Something like that. So, shot on location. Gold, gold, gold. 100 pieces of gold. I know he's going to get that reference. Anyway, very nice opening here. So I guess it's supposed to be the 50s. Interesting that a teenager in the 60s would write about teenagers in the 50s, but I don't know. Yeah. So that's Matt Dillon. He's kind of the tough guy of the group. They're all tough. They're the socials. That's where the outsiders come from. They're from the poorer family. I can't remember if it's the north side or the south side, but that's, what it's all about, class division, how it extends even to the kids. Gloria. Yeah. Oh, Sofia Coppola is in here somewhere as a kid. Ooh, there's an uncredited appearances by Melanie Griffith and Heather Langenkamp. Well, I probably won't recognize them because I'm not good at faces, especially when they're that young. Okay, no, it is the 60s. I guess they've just had sort of a 50s aesthetic there, but it's supposed to be about 1965, I guess, which makes sense. It's not like you wouldn't see 50s cars then. Especially considering this is like out. This isn't like right in the city. Things move a little slower there. Anyway, so they're the socials. They're not the socials. They're the greasers. I'm already getting mixed up. They're the greasers. They're the greasers. The socials are the preppy guys. These are the greasers. So let's get our names straight as we go on here. Because I said Matt Dillon's a tough guy. He's Dallas, or they call him Dally. It's the Curtis family, where Patrick Swayze's the eldest. He's Daryl. But then he's got younger. Oh, I forgot to name Rob Lowe. So he's got younger brothers Rob Lowe, Soda Pop, and then the youngest Pony Boy, C. Thomas Howell. So C. Thomas Howell, not Thomas C. Howell. He would be another one of my favorite movies of the 80s, The Hitcher, which I think is a great movie. Like, I think of it as a perfectly constructed. This still seems too loud, doesn't it? No, that's better. I don't know. Perfectly constructed thriller. Maybe my age made me think about the movie too, because this movie really sort of celebrates youth in a way. There's a part later on where they're all excited to go to the Rumble, and they're all pepped up on their on their, I don't know, hormones and testosterone and everything like that. And I think and Emilio Estevez even does like a pretty impressive. I think he does like a like a front flip, which is pretty good. But yes, this starts at the drive-in, which I did go to in my teens, but not much, only a few times. Obviously, the drive-in wasn't as a big deal in the '90s as it would have been back then. This is the heyday of the drive-in. Ah, cherry. Well, that's Diane Lane. Her name is Cherie, but they call her Valen. So Cherry makes sense, I think, because she's got reddish hair. You don't really in movies. It's interesting because I mean, obviously, even amongst Caucasian people, brown is the most common hair color, various kinds of brown. But in like movies, anytime somebody's hair is even slightly blondish, they're blondie. Like think The Man with No Name, those movies, they all call Clint. He has no name, but Clint Eastwood's character sometimes gets referred to as blondie because I guess down there around the Mexican border, everyone has dark hair. The fact that his hair, I wouldn't say is blonde at all. It's more like a sandy brown. Everyone's like blonde. It's kind of the same thing here. I guess she is a legit redhead in this. She is. I'm looking at it now. But some movies, like it's just more of an auburn or something, or maybe a strawberry blonde or something, and they're just like redhead, red. But and now they're asking the question: Are you a real redhead? So yeah. So this is some preppy girls, the ones that would hang out with the socias, having a clash or a meeting with greaser boys. You're being very inappropriate. But you can get away with this kind of behavior in 1965. But even there, they know. They're saying, cut it out, leave her alone. Diane Lane, I know I've seen her in movies, but I can never really think of what they are. So let's see. She's 58 years old now. Not even that old, really. But she was a teenager, I think, for this movie. So man, can't I get a filmography? Sometimes when you have people like this on Wikipedia, they're so famous that their filmography is a whole separate page. Ooh, Get Lost to it. There you go. I mean, she'd already been in several movies before this, although I don't know any of them, including National Lampoon's Movie Madness the year before. Of course, she's in Streets of Fire. That's what I know her for, which is another one I might do a live commentary of because I own it and because I like it and it doesn't get talked about. But she's really cool in that because she's kind of like a cool like rock star type girl. It's amazing how young she is in that. She's only like 19 in that. Of course, she's in Rumblefish, which is also Di Coppola, and I think also has Matt Dillon. But after that, like I don't really know her '90s output at all. She's in Judge Dredd. That's funny. She's in the '92 Chaplin movie, which most people forget exists. Murder at 1600. Yeah, but yeah, she's not really in any big, really cool movies. Yeah, I saw Untraceable. She stars as an FBI agent. I mean, I guess if you're going to talk about biggest movies, it's that she was Martha Kent in Man of Steel, and then would return for the Superman Dawn of Justice movie and Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I mean, I don't know. Oh, she's Riley's mom. That's a voice role in Inside Out. Hollywoodland. So I mean, I've seen her in things, but I don't know. She's not a huge star, I guess. But her early career is very interesting to me, and this is part of it. So they're still talking. Okay, so they know some stuff. Yeah, they know that the Curtis family, the parents died, and now his oldest brother is played by Patrick Swayze. He's like the legal guardian for him and Soda Pop. Take that, Dal. Ralph Macchio's just a year away from his sort of defining role with the Karate Kid. It's hard to believe there's only. I mean, shows how quickly people grow up. I mean, this was shot in 1982, came out in '83. So in only about 2 years, you see how much he sort of grew up a bit. But Ralph Macchio is one of those really youthful people. You watch him in My Cousin Vinny, and he still seems like a kid. Yeah, and that's not too late. My Cousin Vinny's what, 92? Al did them a favor by being such an asshole. He made them seem impressive. So there you go. Pony Boy is only 14. But what's his name, 16? And they point out, you don't look 16. Johnny. He's Johnny. So they're basically, they're the two main characters, Pony Boy and Johnny. Here's Emilio. He's kind of the jokester of the group, I guess. What's his character's name? Two-Bit. Keith, but they call him Two-Bit. But he's always making jokes. I remember that. Tim. Don't recognize Tim. You can't be that important. Oh, that's Glenn Withrow. I don't know who that is. Oh, yeah, Leif Garrett. Yeah, Bob. Okay, so Bob's one of the socials. He's the one that gets killed. A fair fight ain't rough. It could be. I mean, the movie does show, just like the book, like, there's real consequences to this kind of stuff. Somebody winds up dead. So people in Oklahoma say y'all. Okay. I mean, nowadays, I'll be on Twitter and somebody like y'all, blah blah blah, and I'm sure they have nothing to do with any of those areas. They just like using the term. I'm not saying you can't use the term. I'm just trying to think of where it was a colloquialism or whatever. It's in the South. I don't think of Oklahoma as the South. It's what, Midwest? I don't know. All right. So Johnny had been beaten up, and he's left him with a little PTSD. And this is where it begins. She's trying to explain to him that not all the socials are bad. Here they are picking on some kid. Also shows that, as different as the socials and greasers think they are, they're actually very similar. They just come from different places and wear different clothes. Apart from that, they're pretty much the same. The rich kids. Okay, so the rich side of town, and this is the South. Things are rougher all over. So, I mean, it is. I mean, the movie and book tries to make that point. It's kind of it doesn't matter where you grew up, really. There's always going to be cliques and things like that. And I saw it. I just grew up in a small town. It's not like anybody was really rich. I got accused of being rich a lot by kids because my house, it wasn't a big house, but it was what made it look so most impressive was, it had pillars. So I remember a lot of kids be like, "You live in that big house," and I mean, it was a big house. It was, bigger than other houses. My dad was a lawyer. He made good money back in the day. But rich is a little strong for it. But I can just remember being identified in two ways. One was, possibly my family was rich. The other was I was known for being smart, which is never a good thing. I don't know what it's like nowadays, but it's for most of existence, it seems, being smart was something to get picked on for. I remember kids I'd meet some kid, and I never even heard of them. I don't know if they heard of me. They're like, "You're some kind of whiz kid, aren't you?" I said, "What does that mean?" It's like I get good marks. And they're like, yeah, like that's such a weird thing. Like lots of kids get good marks, especially back in elementary when it's so fucking easy. Oh right, Emilio always has like a Mickey shirt on, Mickey Mouse. Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. Got too many tabs open here. Can't help it. Yeah, so she is Bob's girlfriend, and that's another thing. Bob's been drinking, and it makes her angry. Yeah, well, I got a switchblade, motherfucker. Plus, it's more than a fight when you have a switchblade. That's what's that called? Oh yeah, assault with a deadly weapon. And that's not me looking at it through 2023 goggles. I mean, it was the same thing back then. Serious crime. If I see you in school and I don't say hi, don't take it personal. Like, so she still won't go that far. You're a nice boy. But I still have to keep up appearances, apparently. See, on the one hand, she's saying, you guys have all these prejudice against us, but we're really not that different. Things are tough all over. But on the other hand, she's saying like there are insurmountable walls between us, and they do matter. Because she's saying, I can't even be seen talking to you in school. Like, holy shit! And that's really what gets Johnny so upset, and Ponyboy too. It's like this idea that they're just in an endless cycle, which is more or less true. Because, like I said, nowadays, maybe you don't have greasers and socias, but you have some other groups in conflict. Human nature, I suppose. I got hey, he's so upbeat. You can hear his like parents like having some sort of crazy argument and scream, and he's just like, "What's up, guys? See you later. Have a good night." He doesn't let anything bother him. So why can Pony not go home right away? Or is it because he's staying out for Johnny? I can't remember. Because Pony's home situation is tough, but like he has his brother looking out for him, and his brother's a good brother. It's not like he's a jerk. Does Johnny have an abusive situation? He might, yeah. He doesn't want to go home. I remember the general story beats here, but I forget some of the details. Oh yeah, they say tough meaning cool. Mustangs are tough. So yeah, it's Ponyboy first who just expresses his frustration with the situation about how it's things just won't change. Yeah, see, Johnny's suffering from some serious PTSD, but I guess back in the day they didn't really recognize that. Not that the term didn't exist in some way. It goes back to World War I, like shell shock, right? Shell shock. Then after that, battle fatigue. But at the time, they only really did associate it with people coming back from war. They didn't seem to understand that anybody that had gone through, a traumatic event could have that sort of thing. And that's really what's going on with Johnny here. Because it's not just because that he got beaten up that's made him nervous. It's because I think he has a really bad home life. Yeah, he talks about plain ordinary people just getting along and not having labels, away from all the big towns. I mean, movies have to move quickly. So it's hard to get things like this right, and I think they do a good job. Just sort of establishing their friendship and their level of comfort with each other. They have to act a certain way around the other guys, but here they can, say what they're really thinking and feeling, and not always have to put up a front of being tough or whatever. So that's his parents getting wrecked by a train, Pony Boys. So you think Ponyboy might have some PTSD to himself? I mean, I don't think he saw it happen, but yeah, they fell asleep, so now it's really late. Don't leave him alone. Just take him to your house and how? And he knows he's gonna be in trouble with Derry. And they fell asleep. At least you weren't out with a girl and fell asleep. Then you get in even more trouble. It's like that song "Wake Up Little Susie," which is about two kids who are out on a date. I think it's a drive-in or something, and they both fall asleep, so they both really miss their curfew. Right? It's a pretty good song. It also has the song. It also has the line "We're in." If this fine, we're in trouble deep. I didn't realize that I didn't understand the phrasing, and I thought they were saying trouble tea. I thought they made up a word. We're in trouble tea. Yeah. So Dal is nice, but he will. Yeah. See, he feels bad right away. He didn't even hit him. He shoved him. And he feels bad right off. But that's enough to send Ponyboy running. Dal's not a bad guy. He's just in a tough situation. No, we shouldn't have done that. But it's not like he hit him. He shoved him. Shouldn't shove either. But he's saying, "We're running away, Johnny." Johnny's like, "Well, whatever." Let's move. Hello. That's Camille. She's being very good now. It's usually the time of night where she gets crazy bursts of energy and runs around attacking things and smacking into things. But she's being very calm. Good girl. I got her on December 17th, so we spent Christmas in Sydney with my parents, and then we came here. She's pretty happy, I think. I'll always miss Wednesday, my Windsor, who's, if you see my channel, she's made many appearances over the years, and I'll treasure those. Of course, I have lots of pictures of her too. The poor girl. She made it to 16. I had her for 16 years. We went back to the film. It's a cold night, not a good night to be sleeveless. They're gonna get jumped. Yeah, Pony doesn't really have a plan. He just wants to get away. Johnny's like, "Where are we going?" Okay, they're at like a playground. What are they doing in our territory? Yeah, well, you guys aren't exactly a real gang. You're kind of like a fake gang. So talking about your territory is a little different. Because I mean, you're still just high school kids. Hey, leave Garrett. Oh, he's the one that beat up Johnny because he's got the rings. Okay, because they said, yeah, the guy that beat up Johnny had rings. Ooh, a good comeback. You better watch it. I got me a flask. It was something. 5 of them. And all bigger, older. That's a waste of good booze. That's right. We're all white trash. I think that's been understood. Oh yeah, the ugly fountain. So it's not even a fight. He insulted them after they insulted him first. That's like, let's drown him in this fountain. I mean, I get it. They're drunk. They're not thinking too clearly, but it is kind of weird. So Yanni's down, but he's got a blade. They're more or less drowning poor Pony Boy. And I was gonna say, maybe they only mean to scare him, and then somebody's yelling, "Drown him!" Like it sounds like they really mean to do it. So I don't know. So it's not like, oh, they were messing around and get out of hand. It seems like, yes, we totally intend to drown you on that nasty fountain. All right, so we don't actually see what happened. We just okay, yeah, it pulls away. It's a shot of Pony. I guess it's to show the Pony didn't see any of it. He was in the fountain, and now he wakes up and he's not, and Johnny's there, and Bob was there, bleeding out or having bled out. So coming up to the 27-minute mark on this movie, things move quite quickly. Bob is dead. It's interesting that the others ran off. You'd think maybe if he stabbed one of them, they might decide to beat him to death, but I guess they were freaked out enough to take off and just leave their friend dead. The closed captioning or whatever I have up, it skips some of the lines too. I mean, I can hear it all right, but a few times it's missing some of the lines. You go barf on the merry-go-round. So that's the end of Leaf Garrett's. Oh, again, missed the line. Yeah, what? Justifiable homicide. That's true, but we're not going to explain that to the cops. Took off, obviously. Give Ralph Macchio credit. He really does look quite haunted in this movie. He's all nervous and like he was before this happened. Now even more so now that he's killed someone. Right. So they find Dal at some I don't know drug party. I don't know what you call it. Like I don't know what this place even is. It's not a house. I don't know what it is. Is it a bar? I know Dal's more of a criminal than any of us, so we need advice from him. It's like a bar, pool hall type place. Dal was asleep because he's coming out shirtless. Good for you. Nothing to see here, folks, in your weird party. Just a couple of, well, I guess 14-year-olds, although, again, technically Johnny's 16. Doesn't look it. I certainly didn't look 16 when I was 16 either, so. I looked about 15 when I got to college. I mean, sure, now that I'm older, it's maybe a benefit looking younger. It wasn't back then. Though I still think one thing about looking younger, like as here I am entering middle age, is like, and this is well before middle age, like even when I was in my 20s and 30s, it's like, yeah, looking younger, I guess is good in a lot of ways, but it also meant like I projected no authority. like because I'm not tall either, right? Like I'm not short, but I'm not tall. So just today I was walking home and I got out at the same time as high school kids. Now none of them mess with me or anything like that, but I do know that if any wanted to, they would. I wouldn't intimidate anybody or be seen as somebody an elder to respect because I'm not tall and because I look young. And I haven't had any run-ins with high school kids over the years, but there have been times when they've come out where like they don't give up the you know how those kids walk, they all walk like seven across and they won't move. Like I won't move for them. So I've like shoulder checked a few over the years and nothing happened, but I just letting them know that I don't know. They won't respect their elders. Well, I'm not moving for them either. So I've just sort of banged into them and kept going. But the thing is, I think, if they saw somebody like Jay's a big guy, he's got a beard, they get the fuck out of his way. But that's one thing about looking young is that people younger than you don't respect you. And people older than you think you're really young. So I'm not trying to complain. I'm just saying it's one of the drawbacks. But I don't know. I'm middle aged now. There's no denying that. Catches up with us all eventually. So what's his first plan here? Jump on the train. I used to always like a book like this would always excite my imagination for things like that. Just getting a train and riding the cars. And they do show that, there's guys checking the cars, but it's always so easy to do in these movies. And again, it probably was easier to do 50 some years ago than now. They watch those trains here so closely. Plus all the trains here, it's all, big containers off the ships. There's not really any cars that you can get inside anyway. Not the kind of trains that come around here. But I always love those scenes in movies and shows where somebody is hitched a ride and they're inside some sort of riding the rails like the hobos. I don't know. It always seemed cool and romantic. Not really. You'd be bored and it would take a long time. There actually some of that realism is brought in the movie Into the Wild. I can't remember the name of that actor. He's pretty much disappeared. But Into the Wild, there's a scene where he tries to get under a car, or he has been, and he gets caught by one of the guys. And the guy is like so mad, like, yeah, I mean, you can call the cops. Instead, he just beats the shit out of him and threatens him. Like, geez, you didn't catch him like stealing or anything. He was really mad. And that was, I don't know if that something Hirsch. I don't know. He was around in the mid 2000s, then disappeared. He was like in the Speed Racer movie. But that's based on the account of a real life guy. But I don't know if that particular instance actually happened. But he's that guy that decided to walk away from his life and blah blah. Blah. Anyway, I think he disappeared or died. But now they've gotten off the train, and where are they? Have they found the church yet? Because that's where they eventually hide out in, is the old abandoned church. I knew it was Hirsch. There you go, Emil Hirsch. Thank you, Jess. Yeah, but he was like around in the mid 2000s and then just completely disappeared. It's a movie with like Justin Timberlake. Man, this floor sure is hard. So we're coming up. We're just a little bit. We're about 34 and a half minutes in here. The killing has already happened, and I believe they're. Oh, he's okay. Yeah. He's just having a little flashback here. No, I hadn't seen it all the way through in quite a few years. I would catch it on TV here and there and watch big sections of it. But as far as watching it start to finish, it's been a long time. I never owned it. I only ever watched it on TV. So this is my first time like streaming it or anything. I never watched it on Blu-ray or DVD or anything. So yeah, so okay, they're already at the church. Yeah, he brought him some books to read too, including a nice copy of Gone with the Wind. To help pass the time. That's another thing I like about them is they like to read. Deck of cards. Johnny went out and bought some things. I know he's gonna make him dye his hair and cut his hair too. I go, that's just too much for a pony boy. You aren't gonna touch my hair. I get it. Hair is really important to greasers. It's a way of trying to break us. Ugh. Getting your hair cut with a pocket knife, that would be fun. I forgot that they bleached it. My memory of the movie was that he already had lighter hair, but yeah, they bleached it. At least I skipped that scene. He did a good job, though. I mean, considering it's the '60s and they're in a friggin' church. I mean, I've done worse dye jobs myself. Of course, doing it yourself is harder. If you have somebody doing it for you, they can see your whole head. That's a big plus. I know the rabbit. Can't remember their long-term plan because right now it's just to lay low in this area, in this church by this pond or whatever it is. I mean, they're far outside town. They rode the train for a while. Should have gotten another drink. Oh, I hate it. Come on, man. It is just hair. I mean, I'm particular about my hair too, but come on. Right. So there is some sporadic narration by Ponyboy. So here we go. Talk just a line here and there. The next 4 or 5 days are the longest of my life. Nice owl. A raccoon. Is this the stay gold part? They're reading something. No, this isn't it. I think this is Gone with the Wind. They're reading from. They're reading about the aftermath of some battle in the Civil War. I did read Gone with the Wind once. It was a chore. That is a dense, dense book. The movie's good though. I mean, the movie you could say is a chore too, being over 3 hours long. But I mean, the movie is good. First time I saw it, I mean, I obviously didn't pay 100% uh, attention to it. Was Easter of I want to say 1990 because I was spoiled. I got an Easter present. I got a Lego castle, not the black one. It was a few years before they came out. It was one of the gray Lego castles, and I remember it was a very rainy day, and we were down in our basement, and I spent that time. And Gone with the Wind was on TV, so it was 3.5 hours, and even longer. It was the whole afternoon because there was commercials too, right? So I remember we had that on while my mother helped me put the castle together. And that was the first time I watched it, but I did pay more attention than you think. Many shots here, Spiderweb. I have, of course, seen it since then, but still, those are always sort of my strongest memories, as being 7 and watching it. It was the colorized version that was on TV. They did do a colorization of it. I haven't read this book, The Outsiders, in a long time. I assume that copy's still in my parents' house. I didn't take it with me. I haven't read it in many years. But I mean, I remember this follows. It's not a long book, so this follows it pretty closely. It's not like they had to cut out a bunch of stuff. I'm interested to see the longer cut of this movie, which I've never seen. I've only seen. Oh, there you go. Nothing gold can stay. Nature's first green is gold. Her hardest hue to hold. Early leaves of flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden centigrade. Okay, so it wasn't actually colorized. Still, it would come on TV, I mean, in black and white, I guess, just because of old, I don't know. I remember seeing it in black and white. I missed the end of the poem. But at least he remembered it. Oh, it's one of the Robert Frost poems. Okay. I mean, he just says that he remember. Yeah. So this is where he says, "I never know." Yeah, I never noticed colors and clouds and stuff. You reminded me of him, so it's sort of like Pony Boy is a little bit more sensitive. I don't know. He says he likes it. Yeah, I could never tell Steve or Two Bit or even Derry. That's true about clouds and the sunset. Yeah, they'd laugh at him, call him a girl or something. But he says he could be close to Soda Pop, and they mentioned Cherry Valance. But I was thinking that he doesn't necessarily mention that he had to learn it for school or what. But I just mean, I don't know. Was ours the last generation that had to memorize stuff? It seems like, no, I'm not even talking about kids today. I'm talking about like kids even like 15, 20 years ago. It seemed like they did not have to, like, I remember talking to kids and they didn't seem to ever memorize anything or have to. That was just part of school. You had to learn to memorize stuff. There was no other point to it. It was just so that you would know how to memorize. I mean, the big one for us being in Canada was the poem In Flanders Fields. I still remember In Flanders Fields. I won't give you the whole thing here, but in Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses row on row that mark our place, and in the sky, the lark still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. And I could go on. I mean, memorization was just a skill you're supposed to have. Maybe you don't need it anymore because you can look everything up on your damn phone. I don't know. But I'm kind of proud that I still have the capacity to memorize. Plus, I really needed it because when I was in grade 7, I started French immersion. And when you're starting something like French, the only way to really get anywhere is to memorize stuff. Like comprehension and fluidity, they can come later, but start by just memorization. And I mean, I know that older generations did it even more. My mother always talked about all the stuff they had to do starting at a very young age. But I mean, when I learned In Flanders Field, I was 9. I was in grade 4 when we learned that. So, you know. I know in the US they used to do the Pledge of Allegiance, which sounds really stupid to me, but at least it's a way to memorize. I took a theater course in university just for the hell of it. It's actually where I met a girlfriend, the one that I lived with. I met her in theater class, but I didn't have any theater background before that. Although I had done some stuff at the theater. It's funny because I can't remember what I was talking to Jay and Eric about. I remember one of our chats. What was it? Oh, it was the song White Room. Everything reminds me of something else. But I was watching one of the episodes of the show The Last of Us, and then there's a part where the guy's driving in his car and he's playing the song "The White Room" by Cream, and it reminded me of performing that song because I was in band. I wasn't in theater, but I remember I was like in grade 10 or so. Sometimes our theater would this was I mean, I'm sure they put on like different plays too, but this was like a play, I'm sure you being a theater major, you remember these sorts of plays, the ones the students would write themselves, and they weren't cohesive stories or anything like that. They were just more like a collection of scenes or skits or something like that. And we had one, and I can't remember why, but for one of it, it also there was like a garage band, and they provided most of the music for it, but they didn't have all the parts. So I added it to do a performance of White Room. We had these two transfer students from somewhere in Africa, these twins, and they were so different. They were both very pretty, very dark, like very very dark. And I'm just saying that Africa. That's all I mean. But anyway, they're both very pretty, and they were very different. One was really shy, but then the other was really outgoing, and she was a singer, and she was the one that sang at White Room. I didn't play guitar or anything. I played sax, so I added a sax solo to it and some things. But anyway, that was my contribution. I was never in the theater department, but there were a few times where I might have added some music to it. But yeah, the White Room. I always think of that. When I think of like the small handful of like rock or pop songs I actually got to perform like with a band in my life. That's one of the ones I never think of because I don't know. I was just a supporting role in that. And it's not a song I would have picked. I probably did not know much about Clapton or Cream back in the day, but it's a good song. Okay, so they've gone into town to meet Dal. He has something to say about Cherry. Right, because there's some sort of like, yeah, she testified that soldiers were drunk. Yeah, so they're still trying to like come up with a way where they don't have to stay on the run forever. To give the argument that it was self defense. So what? They're gonna have a little meeting here. Probably because you sexually harassed her from the moment you saw her. But anyway, told me to go to hell. Oh no, we used to just memorize stuff for fun too. You know, things that kids memorize. Uh, I'll save them for something better. But I can think of a few. All right, he gives them a gun. And Johnny's ready to take it and come back. Texas. Yeah, that's the thing that bothers Johnny. His friends care about him, but his parents don't. Yeah, I was like, same thing. My old man doesn't care about me. Yeah, I like how he's disappointed. It's like, what? You come up with a helpful solution. Go show another side of Dal here, though. He says, you spend some time in jail, it might make you mean. I don't want to see that happen to you. So it's not like they get picked on for being, oh, and here we go, the fire, school fire. So apparently this got a little out of hand on set, and that in the name of realism, Coppola insisted they, make the fire bigger. And at one point, it actually got too big and started to rage out of control. And they got really lucky because there was like a sudden downpour, which helped them put it out. I love the way this teacher's dressed up. He looks like that character that Chris Farley would play on Saturday Night Live. What was it, like Matt Foley, motivational speaker? Living in a van down by the river. That's what this guy looks like. Big fat guy with a tie and glasses. It's pretty random. They just come upon this and decide they're going to go in and save those kids. It's very, very brave. That guy's not coming. So this is the church where they had been sleeping because there's the same owl. What were the kids even doing here? I probably talked through why. There must have been some explanation why there was a school class here. I mean, there's several kids in there. They get like at least 3 or 4 out. And there's still one left. Oh, I couldn't tell you. I haven't seen Fried Green Tomatoes in 1,000 years. I mean, that's a good movie too, but I haven't seen. Oh yeah, the field just bit one of them. Oh, there's still a whole bunch of them. There's 4 in that corner. Holy crap! It is true though. Like kids hide. One of the saddest things I've ever heard in my life was the summer between high school and college. I volunteered at a burn camp, which is exactly what it sounds like, camp for like kids that were victims of burns. And some of the kids, you could see the burns on them. A lot of the other ones, they covered them up with, even though it was summer, they covered them up with the things. I wasn't a counselor, although I filled in for one briefly. That was a nightmare, but that was a whole other digression because that was a disaster. But I was just support staff, which meant I helped set things up and take things down and things like that. But still, you get to be around the kids and you hear things, and a lot of kids don't even mind talking about how they get burned. Actually, quite a few of them didn't get burned by fire. A lot of them were burned by like scalding water. But the youngest kid in the whole camp was maybe 5, and I never really talked to him or anything like that. But eventually, the story came out and these were kids from all over Nova Scotia in one place. So I hadn't heard this. So I don't know what community this was, but it was like his was a house fire, like a crazy bad house fire, and it was like he was like maybe 3, and he had another brother who was also a really little kid. I don't know how old he was, and he had a mom, and I don't know if the dad was alive or whatever, but it was them and their mom living in the house, and it was some sort of crazy huge house fire. The place went up like a goddamn inferno. And the twist in the story, or sort of twist, is that in that town, the fire chief was the mother's father, so their grandfather. He would have been in his 60s, and I don't think he usually went out and did the stuff. But of course, he came for this as soon as he found out it was his daughter and his grandchildren's house. So they were on the scene, and what happened was it was something like, it was such a bad fire. They were like, no one can go in. But of course, this being his family, he went in and he found the mother and the kid in the camp. Or no, I'm trying to remember this right. No, okay. He went in and he found the kid. The kid was like hiding in a closet, was kind of my point, which is a stupid thing to do. But, you're a little kid. I don't know. So anyway, he got him out. And then he went back in to get the mother and the brother. And the whole thing collapsed and all of them died. So it's like one of the saddest, awful things I've ever heard. But he did save him, at least. So there, as we see, Johnny got it bad. And Pony Boy is reunited with his brothers. So we're just coming up on 53 minutes. What you thinking about? So poor Pony, he doesn't really know how bad it is at this point. Now, is that the same Mickey shirt or a different Mickey shirt? I think it's the same one because it's sleeveless. A little 2-bit. There's Tom Cruise. I don't know if we've seen him yet at this point. He looks kind of goofy. It's funny. What's Tom Cruise's character's name? I already forget. That's Steve. Or Stevie. Nope, Steve. So the Steve and 2-bit. Showing him the article in the paper. See, now this has brought attention. Yeah. So rescuing the kids and having the story, somebody's looked into their situation, and now they're thinking about moving him and Soda out of Derry's custody. He's worried about being put in a boys' home. There's Rob Lowe, Soda Pop. The Sways. They have a color TV. Not bad for 1965, being so poor. People had black and whites right into like the 80s. Growing up, we had a little black and white. Obviously, it was not our main TV, but we used to watch it in the kitchen. I always kind of enjoyed watching The Simpsons in black and white. Looked good. You think it wouldn't, considering it's a bright, colorful show. But I don't know, like something about the art style, I guess, lent it to look pretty good in black and white. A lot of memories of because it used to come on. I mean, obviously it was on Fox, but it used to come on at 5 o'clock on CBC. You could watch it before the local news. So I used to watch it a lot at 5 o'clock, and I'd watch it in the kitchen. It's funny how things change. Yeah, growing up, I had the typical thing where I ate at the most times. Of course, we were busy. My sister and I were very busy and couldn't always. But most of the time, my family sat down to supper. That's what people in my part of the world say. We don't say dinner. We said supper. I realize that for most Americans, supper is an antiquated word that maybe old people use, but where I live, we would say supper, and we would have supper at the table. And now I think in my adult life, like ever since I started university, like I don't even have, here, like this apartment, but other apartments too. Like I don't even have a kitchen table here, and there's no room in the kitchen. I'd have to put it over there, which would be stupid. I eat all my meals right here where the laptop is sitting on this coffee table. But that's not a new development. That's been my life for years. I remember the second, the first two apartments I lived in, I must have eaten at the table sometimes, but I don't really remember too much. I mean, usually eat out somewhere with the TV. And then as an adult, the other thing is like even when I returned to visit my parents, over time they stopped eating at the kitchen table too. And now like my kitchen table just holds a bunch of stuff. And then pretty much anytime I eat with my parents at the house, I eat out in the den where the TV is. I just eat on the floor. So that whole sitting down to supper, dinner, whatever you want to call it, a meal with your family. I mean, yeah, we used to have a dining room and we did that, special occasions, I don't know, like Thanksgiving if I was around, always Christmas. But besides that, and again, that's the dining room. The dining room was for the special fancy meals. But the everyday kitchen table meal, I haven't experienced that in years. I forget what's going on here. Here's where they have the little meeting with some of the socios. Is it a Dairy Queen or something? I don't know. He's one of the guys from that night. It might no jazz before the Rumble. And that's the other thing. They have already agreed there's going to be a Rumble. But, they want to talk to Pony Boy. Speaking of the Rumble, pal, that guy maybe should have given his line another read. And he's confused. He's like, I found out like what you guys did saving those kids. So I wouldn't have saved them. I would have let them burn. You might not have. But this is interesting because we already had the maybe we're not so different conversation with, of course, Cherry, but now this is actually between a greaser and a real estate. Look at those pants. Everything's a joke to 2-bit. The other guy with jeans actually thinks it's funny. What I gotta hand to the socials when the Rumble starts, they're still wearing their like good preppy clothes. Like, I guess. Yeah. So now we know how bad Johnny's injuries are that he could die. Spoilers. People get hurt in Rumbles, might even killed. That's for sure. That's kind of what was funny. Like, there's a couple times in the movie where people die, including just a small dust up. But the Rumble itself doesn't result in anything serious. And this is the other thing about it, how it won't change. Like, no matter who wins the Rumble, it doesn't change things. Greasers will be greasers, socials will be socials. Doesn't matter. So it shows, it's on both sides. This guy's kind of sick of the cycle himself. Nice talking to you, Randy. Your name's Pony Boy? Oh, okay. I like how he doesn't question that. He's like, sure, Pony Boy. Because, I mean, there is, like we didn't talk about it, but when he introduced himself to Cherry, he did mention, like, his old man was like a weirdo, given his him and his brother's weird names. Soda pop. Nowadays, I don't think like most judges like I don't know how it works exactly, but I do know that like if a name is like irregular, it could get reported and a judge will strike it down. Like a judge will be like, you can't name your kid Soda Pop. There's actually are a lot of cities and places have or states or whatever have like a list of like acceptable names. I love names and I love naming, and that's probably the big tragedy of me not having children, because my kids would have way better names than your kids or anybody you know. And one thing I don't believe in is recycling names. Like my own names come are recycled. My first name is actually Michael. I don't go by Michael. That's my first name though, after my father. But I don't believe in naming people after people. So I wouldn't do that. So if I had kids, I would I would like actually make a really strong effort to make sure whatever names I was thinking of coming up like cannot be traced back in my family for like generations, because I don't want to recycle names. It's disappointing enough how bad people are at naming pets, but to give people, human beings, bad names, ugh, it just makes me sad. 'Cause, yeah, I think I have a good talent for naming. It seems sad that I won't ever get to actually name a human being. Never say never, I suppose. I mean, Jesus, this is the other thing about Johnny dying. Like, he's in such pain, too. His burns are so severe. He has to lie face down, can't feel anything below his back, can't breathe properly because I guess of smoke inhalation. Won't be able to walk again. Yeah, well, you won't have to worry about that. Spoilers. Good camera angle here, too, from below. Good shot of both their faces. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything creative about it. It's probably the smartest thing to do, but still, it looks good. Yeah. I mean, this is the other thing, too. Like, he's brave, but he is talking about being afraid of dying and saying 16 years isn't long enough. I mean, Jesus, imagine. And people in real life, they do face these things at young ages. It always breaks your heart. I mean, even one thing if Johnny died in the church, but to have to come out here and face death like this, it's so much worse. Have this conversation with Pony Boy. Oh yeah, Dow did something too because he's in the hospital. He has injuries too, although I can't remember what the fuck he did. I mean, they aren't life threatening, but I know that he's in the hospital too. He is not okay. Nice pristine nurse's uniform. The cool hats. Yeah, see there he is. You're not a very good patient, Dow. Because like whatever his injuries are, he actually is going to bust out of here for the Rumble. Enjoying his newfound fame. Says, I hate missing it. I don't think you're going to miss. I'm pretty sure he breaks out so he can get in them. A cigarette? Yeah, sure. They're down in the lobby. It's a '60s hospital. That's the thing. They probably wouldn't even tell him to put it out. Doctors doing surgery with cigarettes in their mouths. Even Two-Bit, who's always joking, says he does not look good. Is that the only shirt you own, Two-Bit? I get that the greasers are more poor than the socias, but you should have changes of clothes. This part, I always thought there was like a weird, strange intensity to this part where he asks for the knife. It's good though. It's so odd that it does feel authentic in a way. Him reaching for the knife, his hand shake. Okay, so he's got like burns on, just like you got to win that fight tonight. And he's like, you're like, what the hell is he doing? But he's just is he just carving something? Because it's like, what the hell are you doing with that knife? We don't get to see right away. Do it for Johnny. Do it for Johnny. What are you doing with the knife? It's weird. We don't really see. Why did you ask for the knife? Yeah, it's weird. Like, what did he want the knife for? And he's got his back to us, and we're like, he's not going to cut himself. Well, what's he doing? And then he just turns around and he's holding the knife. I'm almost positive Dal like breaks out of the hospital so that he can take part in the rumble. See if I'm right. I don't think that's true. Rumble's not. He says something awful's going to happen. And something awful does happen, but it's not actually the Rumble. Oh, now I remember. I don't know if he participates, but he does get out. Yeah. Okay. We'll see. Stomp ass on them socials. There's a lot of shots. Well, not a lot, but a few poignant shots in this movie of dusk or dawn. Ah, they're meeting Cherry in her Stingray convertible. No weapons. She says she hates fighting, but I guess she realizes she can't stop it. She can't talk anybody out of it. But she at least wants to maybe tell Ponyboy not to go. Or no, she wants to know about Johnny, of course. Yeah. Why not? She just, yeah, see, that's the other thing. She couldn't visit him. Is it because he's a greaser, or is it just because it would hurt too much? Oh, it's because he killed. Yeah, this is the other thing. He did kill Bob. Maybe Bob asked for it. I know he did. See, the thing is, she did see the good side of Bob. She didn't date him like he was a drunk and an asshole, but he had a good side to him too. He wasn't just any boy. He had something that made him different. I don't. Yeah, so I forgot she has those mixed, complex feelings about Johnny because he did kill Bob, even if Bob brought it on himself in a way. That's the wrong thing to say to Ponyboy. It's probably the scene I remember best. I liked you from the start. Sunsets. Did you say you dig okay? I'm not sure how dig is used in that context. But yeah, I like that scene a lot. That might be my favorite scene, just those two talking. I did too. I started shaving when I was 15. In many ways, I would be a late bloomer compared to a lot of people and young looking and all that. But I did actually start shaving at 15. Maybe I couldn't grow on anything too thick. I don't know. That's one thing I wasn't behind on was facial hair. Yeah, so this from the rest of the movie is just sort of pure like testosterone and adolescent hormones. These guys are. It does make me feel a little sad, and I mean they're all old now, but it makes me feel sad about myself too. Not that I feel like old and broken down. I have energy, but it just means they're here hanging out, having an arm wrestle. Sway's showing off his muscles in his tight black T-shirt. I can't say that. I can't say I had a body that good at any point in my life, but that's the other thing. Like Derry's like technically an adult now, but he's taking part in the Rumble. And he does worry about Ponyboy getting hurt because, like, he's never really shown himself in a fight to be tough or anything. Like, skin against skin, he won't get hurt. Well, I think he still get hurt skin against skin, but yeah, it's better than having weapons. And here we go. They just explode out the door, whooping it up. Look at that. There's the little handstand on the fence. I could do that. Oh, there it is. A standing backflip. Now, I mean, the way we don't see it there, there's probably a mat there. But that doesn't mean he couldn't do it without it. It's just safety purposes. So yeah, Emilio does a standing backflip. I mean, not on the ground. He does it off the car. I mean, I probably could have done something like that, but I wouldn't have had the balls to do it. I could do handless cartwheels. I bet you I still could. I'm terrified to try now. I haven't done one in so many years. I could. What's funny is you would think, oh, you have to learn how to normal cartwheel before you can handless cartwheel. But I never had the right balance for normal cartwheels. Anytime I tried to do a normal cartwheel with my hands, I would tip over one way or the other. I couldn't straighten out. Eventually, I just started doing them handless, and I was like, well, that's much faster and quicker. I don't have to worry about tipping over. So yeah. So I'm proof that you do not have to necessarily be good at a regular cartwheel before you learn the handless one. Maybe you can look it up and say, oh, you got to perfect. No, you don't. You can skip right ahead. I like this too. Now, I was never involved in anything like this as a kid, but I can remember some kind of conversations like this as a teen with, or being privy to conversations like this kind of what's coming up. They're going to have this little meeting here because they're going to find out like one of like the senior socials, one of like the leaders, you know, that he used to be friends with Gary or something. They said they played football together or something like that. I don't know. I was never part of anything nearly this intense or anything like that, but I can remember some sort of tense situations like that, like guys that are kind of like I wouldn't want to say enemies, but like acknowledging that you know they're not friends anymore. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But yeah, so here come the Soch, all dressed up in their Soch finery. Maybe they should have found some not so fancy clothes, considering they're gonna get in a big fight in the rain and mud. But whatever. I mean, usually Derry had the right idea. Most of these guys have like their leather jackets on. I would take off my jacket for a fight. I want freedom of movement. Look at all these greasers we didn't see before. There's a lot of them. It's a long camera pan here. A lot of sleeveless shirts. A lot of leather jackets. Here come the khaki crowd. These guys are like the guys from the Gap commercials. So I guess Derry's kind of their leader since he's the oldest. What's the name of the guy? We'll see. Is it Bill? Paul. His name's Paul. Paul's got like a cool like Letterman's jacket. Yeah, they run around together and play football. Yeah, see there he is. He busted out of the hospital. Whoa, that was fast. Yeah, they don't show it. He just runs up. Don't rumble without me. Boom, and it's pure chaos, which I mean is how it would go. Not a lot of technique in this. It's a rumble, and the rain starts. I don't know. I'd be pretty scared in this situation. You know, I've seen real life fights. I've been around them and kind of part of them before. And I mean, I get this. The movie's not playing this off like it's not serious. It is serious. But I just mean it's just a scary thing. You know, you see lots of movies that have like a bar fight, and it's almost kind of like played for like it's just a fun time. But I mean, no bar fight I've been around was ever fun. It was always upsetting. People get hurt. Oh, nice takedown. So hard to tell who's who with all the rain coming down. And where did this fire come from? Jesus. That was a sloppy kick. Oh, Tom Cruise got knocked down. What's his name? Steve? Oh, that guy's nice sweater. Getting his head pounded into the mud. He's lucky it's soft mud. Wouldn't be very fun, but at least he's not going to get his head split open. Oh, Tom Cruise is coming back. See, this is where we see it's kind of almost hard to tell, but the tide is turning. The greasers are starting to win. It's a little hard to tell though, because now that they're all so full of mud, it's hard to tell their clothes apart. You got to look at the pants. It's like jeans versus khakis or whatever the hell they're wearing. I guess I'd have to be a greaser. Yeah, but then they just run off. Like, help your friends, damn it. Ponyboy did not really get any good licks in, but they did it. They won. I mean, great. They can feel happy about it and all hopped up, but as I said, what does it really accomplish? Very primal. Coming up. Hour 17 minutes, almost 30 seconds. Someone call the cops? Oh, right, I remember. Ponyboys have been beat up. They're got him in the car there. Yeah. What do you think, cop? How come he's not with Derry anyway? Why is he with? Yeah, whatever. It's good enough for the cop. Or did the cop say he'd escort him? Does he now have to follow him to the hospital? I don't know. Pony does look pretty bad. Yeah, he did not have a good time in that. They don't know yet. They're gonna find out about Johnny. It's starting to get to him. Yeah, so he really does bring him to the hospital. I think he had no choice really with the cop escorting them. I mean, they got good cause, but they're gonna go try to see Johnny. I'm sure they're really. And he's even gonna say it's useless, right? So he tells them, yeah, it's useless. He tells them it doesn't matter that you beat the socials. Fighting ain't no good. He's right. Fighting ain't no good, he says. And then later, he would meet, in another life, he would meet Mr. Miyagi, who would say, fighting no good. Miyagi hate fighting. Man, would they really just leave his neck uncovered like that? It's awful. He's right. Stay gold, Ponyboy. Stay gold. Oh, God. They got in just in time for him to die. And even though he was closest to Ponyboy, it's really a Dal that loses it. Dally. Fortunately, there's more trauma to follow. It does not end with Johnny's death. It's sad. Here he takes out the gun, points it at his friggin' doctor. Well, you see that it's empty because it clicks. I like how the fact, I mean, yes, the gun's empty, but they're not really, they should still be more disturbed that someone's pointing a gun at people at a hospital. But anyway, guy's just like, you're out of your mind. He's so tough. It's only his knuckles that are hurt. He's dead. He's asleep. He just died. I like how he even tells them, told me to stay gold. They're not going to know what the fuck that means. Like, wow, he was delirious at the end, was he? Oh, yeah, this is where he starts tearing up the magazines. That guy's vest, he looks like one of those, like singing groups or from the 50s. The white ones, not the black ones. But they got those vests. It's not a barbershop quartet, but it's kind of a step up from that. Oh, there's got a Batman comic there. I wish I could make out the issue. It's 1965. I could figure it out. I think there was a Popeye comic next to it. Yeah, if I had a time machine, like, I'd go back in time and like buy comics. There's the gun again. I mean, he's robbing the place for no real reason. He just, watch out, he's got a gun. So common in American movies. They rob a place and the clerk has a gun. That I guess we just accept that at least half, if not more, clerks have guns. Like, it's not really a thing here. I remember I had a friend I was in college with, and he told me about like one of the summer jobs he had was at like this kind of like bodega type place. I don't know, it was down near the waterfront when the cruise ships would come in. I don't know if it was an actual store or anything. Anyway, it was like a little, just a little place, little convenience store place like that. And when he was like first getting hired, and the guy was telling about stuff on the job, at one point he showed him like this bat that he kept behind there, for if anybody like tried to rob the place. And he's just like, I was thinking, this place, I'm never doing that. Like, this place does not pay me enough to try to stop people with a bat. So like, this guy can use the bat all he wants himself, but I'm not. Never came up. But, there's a convenience store that's open 24 hours, not too far from me, that I don't go too much because obviously it gouges you, but it's called Needs. And my particular one has been robbed quite a few times over the years, and I probably should stop going there in the dead of night. And I always think, am I going to run into a robbery someday and get like shot for no reason? I don't know if the people always have guns, Anyway, here he is, suicide by cop. So another death. God, that's hard. Well, you're waking up? I don't know if that you could hear that on the mic, but she makes the cutest chirping sounds. Yeah, you speak bird. She doesn't meow. Wednesday never meow, but she said meow. Wednesday would say meow, 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 especially when she wanted something. This one chirps. She's not much of a purrer. I hope she'll maybe start to purr more when she gets a bit older. Wednesday was a very good purrer. This one has a very, very low soft purr. I hope she'll do more. I love her chirping. Our very first cat, Leia, she chirped too, but she could meow if she wanted to. When she was upset, that was the only time she would meow. So here's the reading. So I'm not too sure about this filming technique here. I'm fine with the voiceover, but I don't know how I feel about actually seeing Johnny's face on the side. Maybe he felt the read was so good he had to show it. I don't know. Anyway, he left a thing saying like it was the right thing to do. Like he didn't regret it. That the kids would have better lives. When you're a kid, everything's new. Like the way you dig sunsets, phony. That's gold. Keep it that way. Yeah. So that's another thing about youth. Like even when you get old and you've already seen so much tragedy. Like don't let it jade you. And that sucks too. He mentions Dal. Now we have a shot of Dal. Like I get it. We see that. Like we don't need to be reminded of these people. Faces we just saw. So that's one thing. I'm not sure. Like I'm okay with the technique of, when you're reading the letter, hearing the voiceover of the person that wrote it. I'm not sure how I feel about seeing the face, and they even bring Dal's face into it. It's like I get it. Yeah, I feel sad. I don't need to see their faces. That seems like overdoing it. So that's one tiny complaint about the movie. It's not a big deal. Just don't think it's a great stylistic choice. So then we come back to the start of him writing the essay. When I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only two things on my mind: Paul Newman and a ride home. And that's it. Roll credits. It's a short and sweet movie. As I said, I've always been interested in seeing the longer version. See what that's like with maybe some deleted scenes. I'll have to look into it. It's a really good movie. Store clerk was William Smith, whoever that is. I like how the little girl is credited as Domino. Who the hell is Domino? Some actress? No. I'm going to let this song play out. Bring it up. Film dedicated to the people who first suggested it be made. Librarian Joe Ellen Messigan and the students of the Lone Star School in Fresno, California. So I probably saw that before, but maybe I just didn't think too much of it. But yeah, they actually went to the trouble of writing to the director. You know who I mean. Francis Ford Coppola. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if that's ever happened again. Has that ever happened again? Students writing to a specific director and saying, "We would like you to make this a movie," and then they do it. But a good follow-up after coming off the disaster that was One from the Heart. I've never actually seen Rumblefish, which of course would contain a couple of these actors, Diane Lane and who's it there? Everybody's name going out of my head. You know who I mean. Not Dylan. But maybe not next time, but one of these times I'm going to do Streets of Fire, because I think it's a really cool movie. Kind of a noble failure in a way. But I really do enjoy it. Really stylistic movie, and that has Diane Lane, but that's of course directed by my director that I always stick up for. What is it? Walter Hill. Really interesting thing. And Gloria Van Morrison. But no songs by Tom Waits. Okay, so the movie they went to see was one of those beach movies from the 50s. It was Beach Blanket Bingo. And the poetry of Robert Frost. I always thought Robert Frost was super overrated as far as American poets goes, but he's very well. Oh man, the footage was from Mickey's Trailer? That's one of the best Mickey shorts there is. I love that one. And you can watch it now on Disney Plus if you have it. That's one of the best ones. Because that's not just Mickey, that has Donald and Goofy in it too. So that's one of the ones that you get all three. I can't believe I didn't recognize it. I must have been distracted. because I've seen that one a bunch. But yeah, Mickey's Trailer is a great short. So that's that. There you go. So The Outsiders 83. So thanks, Jess, for coming by and keeping this from being a complete ghost town. I mean, I don't know. I didn't give notice. I didn't really tell anybody I was going to do this or anything like that. And it was kind of only within like the last half hour that I decided which movie was going to be. I was going to do like some sort of nine. I was thinking about like maybe Lionheart or some other like 90s action thing, maybe something with Van Damme. I wanted to do Maximum Risk, which had been on Netflix for me for a long time, and now it's gone. But then I went in a completely different direction when I saw The Outsiders, and I don't know, it's just such a good movie. I figured I'd have enough to talk about. It's not like I have any behind the scenes things, but there's a lot of good stuff to talk about there. So a good movie, very emotional movie, very well shot, very well acted. I like it a lot. Holds up really well. And I haven't read the book in 100 years, but I remember the book pretty well, and I know that it follows the book very closely. It really does capture the spirit of the book. And it is one of the better like coming of age books out there, I think. I know so many have been written, and maybe I've missed out on them in the last 20 some years. What was a big one that came out not too long ago? There was one called The Hate You Give, which was eventually made into a movie also. I saw the movie. It didn't do much for me, but maybe it's because it was harder for me to relate to. I don't know. That one had a lot to do, of course, with race and things like that. Not saying like I can't appreciate that. Of course I can, but it's not as relatable, of course, for someone in my own situation. Still a pretty good movie. I'm sure the book is good. But yeah, the big one for me was always The Perks of Being a Wallflower. That's probably my number one. And the movie adaptation is quite good. It's interesting. Emma Watson is in that as the character. I think her name was Sam. And she is so different from the way I pictured the character. But it's still a pretty good performance, like in that it did sort of win me over. Like it's not what I would picture again. If I read the book, I wouldn't picture that Sam. I'd picture my own Sam. But it is an interesting performance that she gives. I guess I need to see that again too. But that one's really hard because that one's really emotional for me. I think just because I relate so strongly to that character. That's one of the protagonists I relate to the most. You know, there's a lot of people that read maybe the one that really kicked off the genre so much. What is it? The Catcher in the Rye. I like The Catcher in the Rye. And yeah, I can relate to Holden Caulfield in some ways, but not nearly as much as his name is Charlie in The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Maybe because Charlie's also a closer to my age. You know, I'm not sure what he was supposed to be in high school, I think in 91 or something like that. So it would have made him, 7 or 8 years older, but still much closer than Holden Caulfield. But anyway, I'm sure there's other coming of age books and things that I could rattle on about, but I'll spare you. And we'll keep this short and sweet. I don't even know how well the broadcast looked. I don't know. I didn't get any notices about problems, but it never looks the way I want it to do. Anyway, hopefully next time I do one of these, I won't be by myself and other people will be around or something. But I'm losing energy. I'm probably going to go to sleep pretty soon. So thanks a lot for everybody that even briefly tuned in, and especially to Jess for talking a bit. But also, this is live now, but in the future, people will watch this, I hope. So any future people watching this after the fact, and maybe sync it up with the movie, because that's the point of these fucking things. I'd appreciate that too. So thanks a lot, everybody, future people, and current people. I'm losing my perspicacity. Gotta sign off before I just start rambling. All right, so thanks very much to everybody who's watched this video. And I'll be back very soon with something else, maybe something more interesting, more lively, and hopefully something with, Jay or somebody else, maybe even Orc or somebody else around. Jess and I have some stuff we're going to be doing too, speaking of Jess, and other stuff. So, yeah, that's all in the future. Saying future way too much. But, thanks a lot. Peace out, guys. Have a good night, a good day, a good everything. Merry everyone.